Howdy, and welcome to LeeReads, where I talk about the books I've been reading and enjoying lately. This is my July reading wrap-up, and I really have to thank audiobooks this month. I feel like I have some meaty books to talk about from July. The first is The Goblin Emperor by Catherine Addison. This is one of my best friend's favorite books, and I admit that this is one I tried reading several years ago and couldn't really get into it, but I think the audiobook was the key for me, and this one was really good to listen to while doing a road trip. This is maybe the original modern day take on cozy fantasy. Before that was really its own subgenre. It's following the story of Maya, who is a half-elf, half-goblin, and he's fifth in the line of succession to the throne of the empire. He's grown up in exile, tutored by a cousin who hates him. Neither of them ever really expected that he would ever go back to the imperial court. And he wakes up one morning, and it turns out that everyone on the line of succession before him has died in this airship accident. It's kind of a steampunk place. And now all of a sudden he's the emperor. He has to go to the imperial court, and it's just the story about him trying to get his feet under him, trying to figure out how to be emperor. So that's the cozy aspect. There are some important plot things that happen that really impact Maya personally and impact the course of his rule. But there's a lot of internal discourse and wrestling with some of the trauma that Maya had growing up, and also his challenge to live up to his father and his family legacy, which he didn't necessarily find that inspiring, especially because he is half a goblin, and right now the Goblin Empire is considered an enemy of the Elven Empire. I found it really compelling this go-round because I think I was able to connect more with Maya because I knew what I was getting into. If you are looking for a really action-heavy, plot-heavy book, this isn't it. But if you want something that's more introspective and yet the stakes are quite high for Maya, then I would recommend The Goblin Emperor. I'm really glad I gave this one a second chance. Next, I read, finally, because it had been on my Kindle forever, Mask of Mirrors by M.A. Carrick. And then I listened to the audiobook of the second book in the trilogy, The Liar's Knot. I recently did a video on how much I loved these two books. The Mask of Mirrors is a story basically about a con woman who grew up in the streets of this city that's somewhat Venice-inspired. There's a lot of canals, a lot of islands that the characters are moving around. She was basically a street urchin and fled that life with her adopted sister, and now 5 to 7 years she's coming back to make a better life for herself by posing as the long-lost heir to one of the noble houses. But the noble house isn't so well off anymore, so as she's trying to weasel into it, it may not be the best place that she can go, and also the matriarch of that house is a little bit suspicious of Ren. It also follows a couple other characters, a criminal from the streets who is trying to gain power within the upper echelons of the city, the nobility of the city, but he still has his criminal enterprises. And then another character who has joined the police force of the city to try to improve it from the inside out, because he is from the native population and most of those with power are from essentially a colonizing population, and he feels as though his people aren't being treated fairly. He ends up being asked by the matriarch to investigate Ren. So all of these characters come together. There's also a masked vigilante who no one knows who this character is, but they have it out for the nobility, and it has to do with magic. There's a lot of politics and intrigue. I really liked it, and I would say if you like a political intrigue, morally gray character type fantasy, then check out Mask of Mirrors. Then the last book that I have to talk about is science fiction. It was an advanced copy I got from NetGalley of Adrian Tchaikovsky's forthcoming novel, Alien Clay, and this was really one to think about. It is another first contact story in an unusual setting. Humanity has somewhat colonized other worlds. The main planet that these characters are from is controlled by this political entity called the Mandate, which kind of seems a little bit like Big Brother. It's very controlling in how you think and how you believe, but it definitely has parallels to a lot of things going on in politics today that were quite striking and upsetting. The main character is a scientist, and he became sort of a political dissident, was imprisoned by the Mandate, and sent to work on a labor camp at a planet that took like 12 years to get there. It's cheaper for the Mandate to send its fugitives and criminals to work and colonize and explore on these planets than it is to send people that they care about, because it's basically a one-way trip. They don't really expect them to survive very long. On this planet that this ecologist winds up on, there is evidence of a prior civilization. The Mandate, so those that are controlling the labor camp there, want to find out about this civilization. There's a very interesting dynamic here where the Mandate wants to learn the truth so that they can enforce their universal views on the matter and like use it as proof, like, hey, what we believe is correct. And then there's an undercurrent of the scientists that are there that really want to find out the real truth of what happened on this planet. And of course, there's still an undercurrent of political unrest and revolution rising on this labor planet. When you look back at a macro level, the planet itself, the type of life on the planet, seems very, very hostile. So not only is the main character trying to survive in the labor camp and against the Mandate officers there and their fellow prisoners, they also have to survive being exposed to the planet itself. So very interesting mixture of conflicts, quite philosophical in how it deals with government and religion. I enjoyed reading that one by Adrian Tchaikovsky. If you like quite a biological bent into your science fiction, almost leaning horror-ish, then this one might be up your alley. And that is what I finished in July. They were all meaty in their own different ways. I really enjoyed the experience of reading all of them, so it was a very, very great reading month. We had some new releases, some forthcoming releases, and then one that's been out for a couple of years. So I'm really happy with what I was able to read in July, and I'm hoping to carry that momentum into August. Let me know what your favorite book that you read in July was. Thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this video, and as always, don't forget to support your local library. Thanks.